Welcome back to Briggs on Books, where we talk to authors about their books, about their process, how they get a book published. Most of us are trying to write and publish a book, and these authors we bring on, they've done it. So we're going to find out how they did it and find out a little bit about their book. By the way, this is a book for young boys. Not only do I have the book here, I have the author. Let's bring in Gene Miller. Welcome, Gene.
Hi, Mike. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, who's this book for, by the way? Here's the cover. It's for school kids? What ages?
Initially, I wrote the book, Mike, for my oldest two grandsons that were going into middle school.
Uh-huh.
But when Kirkus did their review in October, they indicated it should be an adult nonfiction / memoir read. So it's classified as a middle schooler YA book.
Yeah.
But adults are reading it and enjoying it because of the humor and the adventures.
Yeah, I was reading up about it. It does sound like it's very humorous. So, by the way, I read young adult books all the time, and one of the biggest challenges is to get young boys to read a book. So,
yeah, I had to twist my grandson's arms to get it started, but once they got into it, they've been enjoying it, and they're almost finished.
Yeah. Sometimes what our teacher would do is they would read us the first chapter of a book in the classroom and say, if you want to know the rest of the book, you got to go get it. So hopefully some teachers are listening and they will do that. Can you tell us about some of the chapters? Each chapter stands on its own. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mike. The way it's designed, it's 15 short stories. That's another benefit for middle school readers because they are short, you know. Yeah. And each one takes you either on an adventure of a middle schooler through the lens of about an 11-year-old. I kind of start telling the story as an 11-year-old, but I go back to around third grade, and I talk about some instances of bullying that occurred in school, on the school bus, and then adventures along the Delaware River, where we grew up in South Jersey, about 12 miles north of Philly.
That's right. I didn't ask you this when we came on the air. Tell our viewers where you are.
Yeah, we live in Chemung Township, which is right in the middle of the area between Philadelphia and Atlantic City. We're located in the Pine Barrens, which is a giant woods and farm reserve of over 1.5 million acres.
Wow. See, I had no idea that was happening back there. Now, we, out here in California, we go to the beach. What do you call it in Jersey?
We go to the shore.
To the shore, yeah. That's interesting. And is it like ours here? Is it sunny and you play in the water and stuff?
If you're there from like probably Memorial Day until now, late September, it sure is sunny and everybody's on the beach and has staked out their claim of their sand and their umbrellas and everybody's rolling into the water if it's warm.
This book, basic question I ask everybody is, who's this book for? Is it just for boys or will girls read it too?
I got to tell you, Mike, the title throws you off a bit because it sounds like it is for middle school boys only because it's from a perspective of a middle school kid. I'm an only child, so I didn't have any sisters, big sisters or little sisters. I didn't have any brothers, so I kind of connected with families along the street and the block of Delanco, and a lot of those little sisters kind of became my little sister. Mm-hmm. Especially my best friend, Mark Bruno, and his little sister, Deanna. She was always along for the ride. We tried to get away from her, so she didn't tell on us.
Telling you guys, yeah. So it's for anyone. And like I said, I read young adult books all the time. I enjoy the heck out of them. And it sounds like this one's going to be a lot of fun for anyone.
Well, I tried because I've been in education before I retired a year ago for 44 years. I began teaching at the middle school level, then eventually taught in the high school level, then became a middle school principal. So like 35 of my years is in public schools at that grade level. So I do know middle schoolers, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Eventually, I ended my career the last 9 years at Stockton University in the School of Education, teaching the older kids, and that was a nice change too.
Yeah, I guess so. You are uniquely qualified to write a book that middle schoolers might read.
Yeah. The other part, when I wrote the book, I included, I hired an illustrator and her name was Susan McGettigan. And she did such a fine job of doing color illustrations, one illustration at the end of each chapter to kind of bring everything together. It lends itself to that middle school age, but the adults that have been reading it have finding it to be discovering almost like they go back in a time machine and they go back to that period of time of 1965 to 1970 along the Delaware River in Delanco. And a lot of people that live in that area of Riverside, Delanco, Beverly, Edgewater Park, Burlington City, they're very, very familiar with all these happenings that went along there. The river was dredged to get big ships up the river from Philadelphia to Trenton, and they took all the dredge spoils and ruined our view of the river and piled it right behind our athletic field. And instead of looking out to the river, we could only see dunes. It looked like the Sahara Desert behind our house.
That's too bad, yeah. Would you call it a coming-of-age book?
Absolute coming-of-age book, yes.
Very good, very good.
Finishes at 8th grade graduation with another incident. There's a lot of crazy, wacky incidents. Me and my two close friends on the block, Mark Bruno and Rich Palm, we were involved in a lot of these activities together. But each chapter, characters are introduced to come in and change, other than Big Rich and Mark Bruno. But the characters that come in, they do some crazy things too. One of the chapters, the chapters start off with the first chapter talks about growing up along the river and describing the geographical area, but the second chapter introduces an interesting discovery that I made with the help of Big Rich and Mark Bruno along the Delaware River. And I still have artifacts to this day from the dig on the beach.
Wow.
The second chapter goes into me trying to come of age by being responsible, by getting a summer job at age 10, cutting my grandfather's lawn and working on a farm, and that didn't work out, and then I became a paperboy.
Paperboy. By the way, those artifacts you held up, you're saying that when they dredged that river and dumped the sludge on shore, that's where you found some of that stuff?
I was actually where they dumped the dredge spoils. The river still had a beach, so we had behind my house an athletic field, and then it was tree lined, and there was a swamp there. And the adventures take place from the athletic field to the swamp, then to the dunes where the dredge spoils were, and then onto the riverbank where I was walking, and I discovered something at extra low tide that day in Easter in 1968. It ended up becoming a big deal. Now, I went to Riverside High School, which is the next town south of Delanco, and at Riverside's historical building, at my first book signing in July, they were working on a dig along the Rancocas Creek, which kind of like splits Delanco and Riverside. And in 1858, there was an experimental submarine called the Alligator Junior, a two-man sub. This is the preliminary submarine to the Monitor and the Merrimack in the Civil War. This sub got lost, and instead of going north along the Delaware River, it took this offshoot, Rancocas Creek, so to speak. It looks like a small river, and it started going up the creek, and then it sunk. So the Riverside Historical Society, and there's a big article in the Philadelphia Inquirer around September on Alice Smith and the Riverside Historical Society, discovered the alligator. And there's going to be a dig going on very shortly for that. And now these things that I've found from my exploration along the Delaware is being handed over to Peter Fritz of the Delanco Historic Club, and they want to do a similar dig for this item that I discovered that was over 60 feet exposed along the river with my friends.
Now, you said somebody suggested this is more of a memoir. It sounds like all these stories are true. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's a nonfiction. Yes, all true.
Yeah. So anybody who grew up around that area, I bet they delight in reading this book and remembering these things that happened.
I've been very fortunate. You know, this is my first book. It's a lot different. Fees you're writing a memoir style nonfiction than creating a fictional world.
Yep.
But the people that have been reading it from the area have been coming out to greet me in a positive light and being
Yeah.
excited to read the stories and to talk about them. And that's the fun part because the names are real too. So a lot of these people are relatives, cousins, neighbors, friends, classmates. And it's bringing out a lot of unity within the towns connected to the stories.
That's great. Okay, that's a great story, Gene. By the way, I have your web address up there. What would our viewers find there?
You will find a sample writing from the beginning of Chapter 2, so you can see my writing style.
Okay.
And also, there will be some awards. December 18th, I was notified that the New England Book Festival gave me a first runner-up for young adult literature, and also an honorable mention for a wild card division, which means it's multiple genre, which they recognize just like Kirkus
Multiple
did.
genre,
So so I'm very proud of that. That's posted on the website, and then also some videos connected to the book.
That's great. Yeah, I on the website they'll find all that. Yeah, I just I have to pick new books. I read so many books. I'm always reading something, and when I see a book get some awards, it helps me take a second look at it. If I can see an author talking in an interview like that, it helps me pick the book. And this one just sounds fascinating, Gene. I want to suggest, I'll make a suggestion, is that if you're watching, you got middle schoolers, your kids are going to be going to birthday parties every other week. So don't go and order one of these books. Order 10 copies and send them with your kids to birthday parties and stuff. I think that'd be a great gift. Books are always a great gift. Gene, we've gone way past time. I just love talking to you. Any last thoughts? Anything else you want to share that we missed?
Yeah, there's only one story that doesn't take place around Delanco and the river, and that's when I had to be sent off to summer camp at Camp Occoneck in Medford in the Pines. I now live in the Pines. I didn't know I was going to end up here in my life, but I had some tremendous adventures and tales to tell in that chapter on Occoneck and the tribe has spoken. And a lot of these children, including my grandchildren, in 6th grade, 7th grade, their school takes them overnight to Camp Occoneck. And so this would be a great way to compare your middle school years now of a time passed without computers, Xbox, cell phones, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think the best stories are true stories, and it sounds like this is going to be it sounds like it is a great book. I look forward to reading it myself. I can't read all the books of all the authors I talked to, but I'm going to read this one, Gene, for sure. I love this idea and the style, the approach you took to telling your stories. Thank you, Gene. I hope you come back on again.
Because it was written for middle schoolers, and I'm an educator, I included a back section of chapter lessons that introduces new vocabulary terms, critical thinking, cross-curricular ideas, and research and writing prompts.
Yeah, so I'm not just going to give this book out to young people. I'm going to give it to teachers, too. I think they would like that. Gene, thank you so much. I hope you'll come back again and again.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to meet you and to talk with you.
Okay, and for our viewers, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with another author in just a few minutes. And we are out, Gene.